once again, and welcome to the SRM Talks number 11. I would like to introduce the SRM Talks to those especially who happens to be here for the first time. So SRM Talks is an initiative by some group of students from the 2017 batch, and we organize monthly talks under the motto SRM Talks Future Challenges. And their motive behind was to help students learn what is happening beyond the borders of classroom, and also help them meet experts and organizations in the resource management field, and also help students to network with fellow resource management students. So far, we've had 10 talks and 20 speakers and topics on protected area management, mobility and transportation, and many more. What is next? In October, we had a talk on agriculture. Today, we are going to talk about landscape. And in December, we will talk something about sustainability and social business. And in January, urban challenges. These are the people in the SRM Talks team. So how can you contribute? You can contribute by sharing your ideas and feedback on the talk, and you can also inform us on any speaker or interesting topic, and you can also come and join the team. So we have these two boxes in front of this room, and you can put the topics or speakers suggestion in the green box, and you can also put the suggestion in the yellow box. We had the recruitment event for this year on last Friday, 16th of November, but you can still talk to any of the team members and you can join the team. And before we go to the main agenda of today, there's also this forum on urban forestry on 4th of December 2018 happening in Freising. So please don't be left out. Make it a point to be there. And today, Dr. Anna Steidle was supposed to start the talk, but she stuck in traffic. So Mr. Gunter Zeug is going to start, and then later, Dr. Anna Steidle will continue. And after the second speaker, we will have the Q&A, the discussion, and then the network and dinner will follow. So, without much ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Gunter Zeug to everyone. Mr. Gunter Zeug studied geography in LMU and started working with GAF AG, Europe's leading consultancy for remote sensing and geospatial services. And he worked as a researcher with the Joint Research Center for the EC in the Global Security Unit in Italy. He was involved in several projects on developing security and crisis-related spatial intelligence. And furthermore, he worked with the European Environment Agency in Copenhagen as a project manager for Copernicus. He is now the managing director of Diploma, a consultancy and geospatial service provider. He co-founded Risk Cognition, which provides data risk intelligence solutions. So please help me welcome Mr. Gunter Zeug.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it very much being here. I think the SRM Talks is a very nice format. This is something that I missed very much when I was a student. I graduated, I think it was 2000 in geography at the LMU Munich. And when you study something rather abstract, like something with natural resources, environment, and it's not so clear from the first day of your education how your job would look like, it's very nice having people from practice telling you a little bit what options you have and to get some inspiration. Before I start, a question to you: who has expertise in remote sensing? Only very few. Okay. Okay. What I want to give today, or what I want to show you today, is a very broad introduction about remote sensing technology, a little bit about the history, and then some examples from projects that we do in our company. Let me start with this one here, because most of you have seen that photograph. That's actually quite old. It's taken on the 24th of December in 1968. And that was taken by astronauts of the Apollo 8 mission. And the Apollo 8 mission was the mission was to leave the Earth, to surround the moon one time, and then to go back to Earth again. During that mission, that photograph was taken. And I think, well, it was actually the first photograph of planet Earth from the outer space. So for the very, very first time, people could see how this whole planet would look like. And I think it's still today very impressive. And when we look at that, and especially coming from this environment side, I think it triggers something in us and saying, hey, this planet Earth looks so tiny and fragile out there in this dark, endless universe, so let's take care of it. However, we are not always good in that, in taking care of our planet. We are very good at polluting the oceans, we cut our forests, and we pollute the air. And while we do that, most of the time we have very economic interests in that. And around the time of this Earthrise image in the 60s, people started to think about building satellites to monitor and to watch the Earth from outer space. But the curiosity in looking from above down to Earth is much, much older. The first tests were made with pigeons, and they got cameras on their breasts and also cameras and balloons to take aerial photography. And then during the World Wars, especially the Second World War, the aerial photography was very advanced, especially the British Royal Air Force. And then in the 1950s, the US started the first space mission. That was the so-called Corona program. All that was, of course, very, very secret. It was linked to intelligence and military. And it was for the first time kind of satellite, and on board of that satellite was a camera, and that camera took photos from above of the Earth. And that's one of those examples. I think most of you are very, very young. Who can still remember the days when you took photographs and you had to develop the film, and then you got a printout? So many. Oh, good. So these Corona systems, they had cameras on board, which means the cameras and the films, they had to be captured and brought back to Earth, and then to be developed, and then you got those images. And over the years, the technology matured, and in the 70s, was again the US very, very strong. They started to build then rather large machines, real laboratories. This is a photograph of the famous Landsat satellite from the US. And just to see the dimensions here, this is a person maybe 180, 190 tall. You see the size, and you can imagine the weight of such a machine that is flying around the Earth. And well, today we are much, much further. Today we have such kind of satellites. We call them microsatellites, some call them shoeboxes. So they are very, very tiny. There are some startups that build those satellites, and they just deploy hundreds of them in outer space. And maybe you have heard of a company, a US startup called Planet Labs. They have several hundred already in space, and they make sure that you get the photograph from each place on Earth every day. I recently met a guy from Bulgaria. He runs this startup, and he goes that far that you can order your microsatellite through a web shop. You can pay with your MasterCard, and he promises to deliver in 3 months. Not sure if that really works, or if this is just for fun to raise attraction, but it's there, it's possible to do. In Europe, we have something called Copernicus. That's a very, or the European Earth Observation Program. Maybe you have heard about that. The Copernicus started, I think, in the 1990s with the first policy declarations, and then in Copernicus there is a whole fleet of satellites built. I think the first 7 are already launched. They deliver very, very nice data. Besides the satellites, we have also a service component, and we have currently 6 different services, and they provide some, I would call them some standard products. So we have some the service of security and one of emergency management that is triggered in case of a natural catastrophe. There is a user who can say, hey, I need a map from that area, from that flood-affected area or earthquake area. We have a service on climate change, one atmosphere, marine monitoring, and one on land monitoring. And all these satellites that are up there, they deliver simply beautiful images. And it's very nice to look at those images. This is an example from Argentina. This is from Australia. It's so nice to look at that because it's so colorful, and you just see the way being there. This is Brussels. This is Chile. And this here is a volcano, Mount Taranaki, New Zealand. However, looking at images is usually not enough when we talk about resources management. There is this famous quote, you read it very often. I think it comes actually from economics. You can't manage what you don't measure. And that's actually the same that applies to resources management. And in our case, it means that we have to start with an image and then do some processing and get some information out of the map, out of the image, something that we can quantify and measure. And this is the third example. So this is starting with a satellite image, an Indian satellite system, the IRS. And here we have a European product from this Copernicus service. They deliver 5 so-called high-resolution HRL layers. They map forests here in dark green. They map grassland in light green. They map soil sealing in red and blue water areas. And here on that side, you see the final product. That's a famous Korean land cover product. That's a European land cover map. It was first produced in 1990, and then I think in the meantime, it's every 3 years, 3 to 5 years, they redo it, and then they can do a change detection. So that is used as input to the resources management. And the nice thing about all the satellite, or most of the satellite data, is that it's free today. It's not so long ago when satellite imagery was rather a premium product. So I remember when I did my master thesis, I think we had budget. I did that with the DLR in Copenhagen, and I think we had budget to buy 1 or 2 satellite scenes. And at that time, I think a Landsat scene was about 2,500 Deutschmark at the time, totally correct? Yeah, around that time. So you could just buy 1 scene, and then all your budget was exhausted. So you had to try to extract as much information as possible from such a data set. And today, with this Copernicus system, with the Copernicus satellites, we get every 5 days a coverage or an image of, here for example, of Leipzig. And that data is for free. You can just go to the certain web services, that's with the European Space Agency, you can just download it. So we talk really about big data these days, something completely different 2 years before. Of course, we have still commercial missions. When I talk about those shoebox satellites, this is something more, this is something rather commercial. That is with commercial interest, so those satellite scenes, that imagery, you have to purchase. So after this rather general intro, I want to give now, show you now a few examples of projects that we did in our company in the past, I think during the last 1.5 years. And let me start with that one, with the Earth area mapping. We had a very, very nice summer, a very, very dry summer. Some of you have heard we had forest fires in Germany, which is, well, we are not so used to that. It's what we would rather think forest in Europe. We have forest fires in the Mediterranean countries. It's still very up to date, very recent. The fires, the large fires in California. California was this year heavily affected by forest fires. And from a satellite, this is an example from a forest fire that was earlier in California, in Napa Valley. And from space, we can see where it burned. But as I mentioned, we would like to extract that information of that burned area. So we developed an approach to fully automatically delineate that burned area. And we get at the end a polygon out of that, and then we can quantify, we can measure the size of that polygon, and then we can merge it and intersect it with the land cover information, and then we can go to our customer and say, hey, now you see this area was really burned. You see when you intersect it with land cover, how much of certain land cover types were destroyed or affected. The Napa Valley is famous for wines or grapes, only 1%, shrubland 47%, and so on. And who is interested in that kind of information? We do that currently in a research project, but we are in very close contact with government. Government wants to learn what happened, where it happened, to prevent and mitigate future events. And of course insurance. You claim that your land was affected during that fire, and then insurance wants to check if your house was really in one of those areas. This is actually a very nice example because this was a master thesis that one of your colleagues did. Mira study also resource management, I can't remember. But that's the result of the master thesis. Very nice work. The second example is about so-called green infrastructure. Not sure how much you hear in your courses here about European environment policy, but green infrastructure is belongs or is part of the European environment policy. We have a biodiversity strategy and the green infrastructure strategy, and the aim of this green infrastructure strategy is to expand a network of green infrastructure all over Europe. So kind of green spider web all over Europe. And this is something to fight against biodiversity loss, because species need place to move around, and when you shrink that space, then the chance that species extinct is quite high. This is a map from the European Environment Agency, and this shows the Natura 2000 sites in Europe. Natura 2000, that's also a European policy about protected areas in Europe. And you see from, at that scale at least, it seems that we have already quite a wide green network. Very nice. Germany is a very, very nice example. Another one here is Slovenia. Also here in the north of Sweden, we have very, very large green areas. But of course, when you look a little bit more into detail, the situation looks, of course, different. As environment experts, we all know that nature does not respect any administrative border. It doesn't care. So the European Environment Agency asked us, can't you look on the border area of the European Union and to see how that green infrastructure network expands across the border? Does that continue? Do we have to start with some initiatives, fund some cross-border projects to support that idea? So we mapped the whole stripe here, a 50-kilometer buffer from up Norway, all along the eastern border, across the Black Sea. We even continued here, went around Turkey, and checked that. And this is one example that we did. This is a national park in Poland, Białowieża. Very nice one. It's called to be one of the last.
Białowieża.
All right, you're the expert. It's called one of the last real border between Poland and Belarus. And in this map we collected, first of all kinds of available open environment data that we could get. One thing for you to keep in mind, in Europe, environment data, environment information is free. It's open data, there is a law behind that, a European law, there's even an international convention on that, but in Europe we have a law for that. So usually in each country you get access to environment data. So what did we do? We used information about protected areas, that's the blue hash area here that is overlaid by Natura 2000. So you see a large part of the area that is protected under national law is also protected under European law. Then we put in Ramsar sites. Ramsar is a convention on wetlands, an international convention. And then we said, yeah, but we don't want to look only into protected land, but green infrastructure is much more. We also talk about forest or natural grassland. So for that purpose, we used remote sensing data. We didn't map it ourselves. We used available data from Copernicus and the global forest data set. So the dark green areas here is from forest data set, and the light green here is from grassland. We were actually quite surprised at how well this green infrastructure expands across the border. In Scandinavia, it's something rather obvious. Yeah, when you look in Google Maps in the very northern parts of Europe, this seems to be just nature, uninhabited, rocks and forests and lakes. Interesting is then really when you go further down, south, and you go here in that area, northern Syria, Turkey, Iraq, what is this here? Armenia, Georgia, Armenia, what's this one here? Iraq. So yeah, the situation looks a bit different. We were not asked to look into reasons for that, but when you think about the reasons behind it, why do we have not so many protected areas, this is something completely different, and maybe also a bit more difficult to explore. When you go from this European scale down to a national scale now to Germany, we did also during the last 2 years a project that was ordered by the German Environment Agency, the Umweltbundesamt. And the Umweltbundesamt, they build indicators to monitor climate change and the adaptation to climate change. And some of those indicators are linked to forests. So how does the forest area expand or shrink? What types of trees do we have? Do we have to adapt the forests with different tree species because in the future they won't grow anymore, or will be maybe affected, rather affected by some beetles or other illnesses? And they also do modeling of critical loads. Critical loads, this is, who knows what critical loads is? Critical loads is going in the direction of acidification of the forest soil in the forest itself. So through air pollution, they do the acidity. They don't get it. So the environment agency in Germany, they model that. To have a base layer, they of course have to know where the forest is, and since each tree is reacting differently, they want to know the different tree species. So they asked us, could you please find out if you are able to use that freely available data, Sentinel, to identify 10 or 11 different tree species in Germany. And then we picked out several test areas, and that is one of the results. That's in northern Bavaria, in Spessart it's called. And we were quite happy with the results. Here we get an overall accuracy. Be careful with overall accuracies. That's, I think, is it 86 or 88%. And here, that's the result. You see the different colors, so that stands for the different tree species. Very, very important for those approaches is that we have training data. So we have to know, when you do such classifications, it's a supervised approach. So you tell your algorithm, you show your algorithm examples, you show your algorithm this is how an oak tree or an oak stand looks like, and this is how a pine stand looks like, and you give your algorithm lots of examples. And then the algorithm is able to extract from the satellite the areas with similar patterns, and that's then the result of your classification. So you need lots of training data and very good training data. When you have poor training data, you will probably also have rather poor results. And so this map here is about the reference data. This is then just a copy of that one here, and this is about the classification quality. Because when we talk about remote sensing, your customer will always come to you and ask you, how well is your product? How good is your product? Can you quantify that? And then you have statistical measures to quantify the accuracy. And when I say here, this is the overall accuracy, 88%. You have to look into other indicators than this overall accuracy, because that gives a rather coarse impression. Nevertheless, 88%, our product was really, really good. The customer was very happy with that. This is a project that we did together here with BOKU. That's the University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences in Diploma. And another example is this one about green cities. I'm actually very curious to hear the second talk, because this is also about the urban forests. And we started earlier this year with a project that's simply called Green Cities. And this quote here is, I think, summarizes the ideas that we have quite well. It's a quote from the German president of the Association of Mayors. Can you translate it like that? So all the mayors of the larger cities come together, they have an association. This guy here, Mr. Levy, is the president. And he says, or he just asks, how can I transform an urban space, which is today rather an agglomeration of tin, into a space where people can meet and have a livable environment? And we come again from remote sensing and think, how can we use spatial data to support that idea? How can we use big data to support the idea of smart cities? And we did some tests so far. We are not that far yet. This is an example where we calculated the urban heat. Of course, it's hot in summer, you have a lot of sealed surface, and then the surface heats up, and we start in April, we go up to August, and don't be irritated by the degrees. This is surface temperature, this is not air temperature, this is a bit different. And based on such data, what we want to investigate now, can we use such information as a planning support, where maybe green, or how green areas affect the urban heat, and where green areas could be built in the city. This is another example. This is Stuttgart. There we used, we just mapped the green areas. Maybe you have heard about something called the NDVI, Normalized Difference Vegetation Index. This is just that. And there we started to map that in March, I think, until October. And you see how the green is changing. In March, which is now, we have almost no vegetation, and then it changes over the year, and then in autumn it's reduced again. I actually wanted to make a link now to Mr. Steidle, to the second talk, but so I do that a bit differently. There is a concept about ecosystems, ecosystem services. Have you heard about that? Yeah. And when you think about urban trees and urban forests, they provide lots of ecosystem services. These are just a few of them. The tree is storing water, they reduce noise, they provide shadow, they store CO, they produce O2. There are even studies showing that a forest, an urban forest, is improving physical and mental health. So we wanted to, or we were wondering, can we use remote sensing to map those urban forests and to determine those ecosystem services. And this is actually a study that is done by colleagues. That's not our work, but that's the Southern English Garden. And the colleagues mapped each tree there in the Southern English Garden. And then they evaluated the ecosystems that those trees provide. And the nice thing in that approach is that you quantify those ecosystems and you put a price tag on that. There's a lot of criticism in that field as well, but it's for the first time an approach to put nature into a balance sheet. Because there are many, many people who only think in money and in deals and not in how nice nature is, or that it can improve. How can I quantify that that an urban forest is improving my well-being? Discuss it with a politician who will smile with you and will not take it seriously. When we talk here, working on an urban scale, we talk also about different data, because here with satellite data, that's 10 meter spatial resolution, you don't get down into the details. So you can use other data. This year is very trendy these days. This is a friend of mine from Denmark, and he's working with a consultancy, it's called Copernicus, and they operate a fleet of drones. And with drones, you cover much, much smaller areas, but at a much, much higher resolution, you get down to 3-5 centimeters. Those missions take maybe half an hour or maybe 45 minutes, and then you can go straight back to the office, process your data, and get an immediate result. And the nice thing about those drones is that you can not only put a camera, a sensor beneath, but you can put an air quality measurement sensor beneath, or here the friends, they use sometimes video. And that's one nice example of what they do. With the video, they are able to count or to monitor how people are moving in a city. Where they are moving, when do they cross the roads, and where do they cross the roads. And they have special software, and they count the people. And they can also measure the speed, how people are moving. It's not surprising that people crossing the road, they're faster than walking on the sidewalk. So that's a very nice, a drone is a very, very nice tool to collect all kinds of data. And again, it's not about the image itself, it's about extracting meaningful information out of that. Something that Mrs. Steidle will probably also talk about is about tree cadasters. And well, when you want to manage, or when a municipality wants to manage its green infrastructure, let's talk talking about each tree, they want to register that and put that into a GIS system. And to set up such a tree cadastre and to control those trees, it's a very big effort. It's a very laborious work, because they need experts who walk through the city, who go to each tree, to have a GPS, to measure the location of the tree, to see what type of tree it is, if it's healthy or not. They measure the stem circumference and the crown diameter. And it takes quite a long time. So we investigate right now, can we use aerial imagery to, well, make that work a little bit easier and to automate some of that work and to derive some first variables for the tree cadastre automatically. And that is an approach that we did with drone data. Here we have some trees, and then we can extract the ground. We can measure the ground. We can also put simply a dot and tell where the stem is. And we can also measure, or we can model a tree in 3D by taking photographs from different sides. And based on such a 3D model, we can also measure the height, and here the stem, and the crown as well. However, imagery is very nice, but what we realize these days, imagery is often not enough, and we need additional data. I said beforehand, environment information is available for free, and a lot of environment information is already collected through sensors or through real field work. We start with some activities working with social media data. That's often applied now in emergency management, that you do text mining. In that case, it's Twitter, and you try to extract meaningful information out of the tweets. So you're no longer, you don't need an operator who's sitting there and saying, oh, here, Maski 2 as Neil told me that the water is arriving here somewhere in Genova, or that here at the Piazza Ponte Dieci, the river or the road is flooding, but you have a computer who's doing that. And the computer is able to extract that information, and then you can geocode those photos. And what we also do currently in a research project, something very, very exciting, that we try to classify the content of the image. When you imagine tweets, hundreds, thousands of tweets every minute, you can't manage those photos all the time, or it would be too much time to classify each image by hand. So we ask again the computer, please let us know what this photo is, and then you can have two baskets, and one says this is something important or useful, and this is rubbish. This is something related to artificial intelligence. That is what we do these days. We work with artificial intelligence, very exciting. We are really excited because it's very, we are very surprised how good the result is when you train your algorithms with sufficient data. Besides social media, there is another opportunity to collect data, that's crowdsourcing, and something called citizen science. Also, it became a bit trendy, even though it's there for many years already. You ask citizens, your friends, you don't have to be a scientist to collect data. And there are some campaigns for large projects where you develop maybe an app, and you send out people in the forest or in the park and say, hey, please collect data about all the butterflies that you see there this afternoon. Or in that case, it's called Hack Air. That's a project where you can order components for an air quality sensor, then you assemble that at home, you put the air quality sensor outside on your balcony, and then there is a Wi-Fi module in there, and it connects directly to a central server, and then you contribute to a global network of air quality measurements. Very nice. And of course, when we work with the data, we can also get access to such data. You have to be a bit careful with the quality, especially when we talk about air quality. You need calibration. You can't compare the quality of a $50 sensor with an air quality station in Landshut Allee that costs 100,000 euros. I want to close with this example here. That's actually a very, very nice one. That's from Melbourne, and maybe you have heard about that. In Melbourne, the municipality, the urban gardeners, they thought they could use also the knowledge of the citizens to support their work and maybe to reduce a little bit their work. So they decided to put a tag on each tree in the city, and the idea was, in case a branch would break down or there would be some insect infestation, the citizen could report that. So he would go there with his mobile phone, scan this tag, and then the mail window would open, and he would write, hey, here is something. The idea was great, and the people used it, but the people started to use it in a completely different example of Mrs. F. And she says, hey dear, I hope you like living at St. Mary's. Most of the time I like to. I have exams coming up and I should be busy studying. I do not have exams because of retreat. I don't think that there is much more to talk about as we don't have a lot in common, you meet the tree and such. But I'm glad we're in this together. The authorities, of course, they were not really sure how to react. They thought they don't take us serious. And but then they thought a step further, and then they understood that this is actually a great tool to get in touch with the citizens and to raise awareness about the issues of an urban forest and the systems that they provide. So they started to answer in the name of the tree. So, I hope you do well in your exams. Research has shown that nature can influence the way that people learn in a positive way, so I hope I inspire your learning. Best wishes. With this example, I want to close. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you got some ideas what we are doing right now with remote sensing, what's possible today, what's available on the market from data. That remote sensing and imagery is sometimes not sufficient. We need additional data, but technology is it's actually quite exciting times we are in. From a technological point of view, we have smartphones and small sensors, and everything is really affordable now. And technology provides us many, many great tools to really support the work in research management, to manage and to protect our environment. Thank you.